Hamzamo familia, welcome to the Black Fire Network 54 Correspondent Show, a show where we get to discuss different matters taking place across the beautiful African continent. And of course, we purpose to continue adding on to the knowledge of your wonderful, knowledge of the wonderful African continent. We trust that you are doing well, being on the 26th of November, the year 2020. And of course, I hope that wherever this particular finds you, you are in good health. Above all, you are actually maintaining a positive mind frame, because there are lots of things that have happened over the course of this year. And of course, some people have fallen even into depression because things did not work out the way they had hoped them to work out for them. But nonetheless, I am glad that you are still part of the Black Fire Network. And of course, you have been taking the time checking on us, and I'll find out what's going on with the Black Fire Network, and above all, what's going on globally with our Black people, because we are all about Black first. Everything else follows after that. And of course, that is the only way we can survive and become, have that collective African consciousness as a people again. I do apologize for the hitches. Yesterday, we were not able to carry on with the Africa Today show. We had a bit of a hitches, but nonetheless, I do trust that this particular one will be a smooth sail. And of course, like I said, we are all about what's happening all across our beautiful African continent. To start us off, I wanted to highlight something I really find to be sort of interesting. I want to talk about some of the countries that I haven't talked about on the previous episodes of the 54 Correspondent Show. And I believe these are countries in Africa that lie on the equator. And in case you haven't been to Africa, maybe you have been to Africa, or maybe you haven't been to Africa, but perhaps you do have an interest to find out which countries really do lie on the equator. And of course, there are so many of them. And of course, if you're asking yourself, you want to just remind what the equator is. The equator is an imaginary line that separates the northern hemisphere from the southern hemisphere, that runs across the center of the earth at a latitude of exactly 0 degrees. And of course, in Africa, the equator runs almost 2,500 miles, or about 4,020 kilometers, even though through 7 West, Central, and Eastern African countries, just south of the Sahara Desert. Ironically, the list of African countries bisected by the equator does not include Equatorial Guinea. Instead, they are as follows: we have Sao Tome and Principe. We do have the Republic of Congo. We do have Gabon. We do have the Democratic Republic of Congo. We do have Uganda. We do have Kenya and Somalia as well. These are the countries, which are bisected by the equator. in the African country. For example, in Kenya, there's a place known as Nanyuki. There's a very, very small town known as Nanyuki. It's not a small town, really. It's a big town. Let me not call it a small town. It's a big town known as Nanyuki. It's not a city. It doesn't have a city status. But nonetheless, when you are in Nanyuki, you can be 1 foot in the northern hemisphere and another foot in the southern hemisphere. And of course, this particular small town, because it's the one I have traveled to, I've not been to Gabon, neither have I been to Sao Tome and Principe or the DRC. But I have been to this particular town, which is known as Nanyuki. It's a beautiful town. And like you said, you would have 1 foot, in the northern hemisphere and another foot in the southern hemisphere in the beautiful town of Nanyuki. Let me share with us briefly. So that you can see one of the towns in which you can have 1 hemisphere, 1 leg in the northern hemisphere and the other leg in the southern hemisphere. This is the point in Nanyuki. You can find out this particular mark in Nanyuki, and at this particular mark, it shows this is you are at this is at the equator in Nanyuki. We also do have 1 particular school right there known as Moi Equator Girls, among other different schools, and there is that particular. It's a bit hot, if you ask me. It's a bit hot, but it's also very, very close to the mountain, which is known as Mount Kenya. If you ever do tour, and perhaps you happen to be in Kenya, I think this is one of the areas of interest. If you are into mountain climbing, I think Mount Kenya would be one of the challenges that you can take up. Apart from Mount Kenya, we also do have other smaller, other different places you can go in Kenya and get to see nature at its finest. And Mount Kenya is really Kenya's tallest mountain. But nonetheless, I do believe in East Africa region as a whole, there is also other different places that you can go and get an expedition, such as the Mount Kilimanjaro. Of course, it is in Tanzania, and among other different interesting places. But what I was bringing to attention is just some of the places where the equator, bisects these particular countries. And if you look at this image, let me share the one that is more. Let me just share the one that is a bit clear. For example, the Kenya one seems to have cut it into a half, but nonetheless that is not a half. But if you look at Gabon is the first country here on this particular map. Then we do have the Congo, which is not. This is Congo Brazzaville, and then we do have Congo, which is a Kinshasa Congo, and then we do have Uganda, Kenya, and Somalia. These are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I believe 7. These are, I believe, 6 countries. I believe these are 6 countries. And someone might have said earlier that Equatorial Guinea would have also been on this particular one, but nonetheless, it's not. And why does it matter whether you are on the equator or whether you are not on the equator? But I believe, when you cross the equator, and you start now moving up to the, for example, in Kenya, when you cross the equator and start moving up to Somalia, or start moving up to Ethiopia, or start moving up to, all these other regions, I think it gets hotter and hotter. And, you move going to Ethiopia, leave Ethiopia, go into Egypt. These other areas are relatively very hot. They are arid and semi-arid areas. But nonetheless, when you are at the middle of the equator, I believe the climate and the weather there is a little bit temperate or really tropical. When you compare to these other regions, the north of in the northern hemisphere, or these other regions in the southern hemisphere. Like I said, for those who would love to come and have a trip of Africa, it's very, very much easy to do so. And I believe some of the interesting places to start with would be Kenya, South Africa, Rwanda, Tanzania. You can also go to Nigeria if you wish to. Zimbabwe also is a place that you can get to, embark on a tour. And, at the start of this particular year, many people had hopes for traveling, because they say to travel is to see. And when you travel, you get a different perspective on life, or a different perspective on our cultures and other things like that. But according to this particular year, there was a very, very big challenge because of the COVID-19 pandemic. And even for myself personally, we want to go and see Zanzibar in Tanzania. But when you go to Dar es Salaam, things didn't work out very, very good for us. And they had said that they will be closing the borders, in case, people might be trapped or locked up in Tanzania. And therefore, we decided, let's just have this particular trip to Zanzibar. We can come back some other time. But for now, let's just go back home. And we embarked on the journey back, from Dar es Salaam to Nairobi. and that wasn't really nice. I really was looking forward to go and see what's good in Zanzibar. But nonetheless, not to fret. Next year we do have the opportunity, and if you would like to join us on that particular trip to go to Tanzania, you are very much welcome to do so. We shall be heading down to Tanzania in March, mid-March next year, and therefore you still do have a couple of months to get things in order. We are hoping also that things do not spiral and go all the way down south, because we understand that even if you want to go back to Tanzania, where they have talked about they are COVID free, we have also other governments that will not allow people to cross into Tanzania or come back into their countries from Tanzania. But nonetheless, that is another different story for a different day. What I really would like to focus on right now is about the matter happening in the Horn of Africa. And the Horn of Africa really entails nations such as Ethiopia. We also do have Somalia. And we have not had peace and stability in this region for a very long time. And especially, let me just talk about Somalia. In Somalia, even at some point, the President Trump had labeled Somalia as a lawless state where anything happens, it's just a banana state, or banana land where anything goes. But I do believe that there are also external influences that have made Somalia to be the way it is, because you cannot just tell me that a country has not found in its way to bring people together and search for on a quest for peace. And even though we have talked about the Horn of Africa countries such as Ethiopia and Somalia being at war and unstable, very much unstable, we have to ask ourselves some very different questions. What foreign influence is there in these particular countries? Both of them. For example, Somalia was a British, it was a British colony. At some point, it was almost getting taken over by the Italians. But I remember even the Italians did try to take a hold of Ethiopia, but there was a war, which is known as the Battle of Adwa. I will be sharing briefly about the Battle of Adwa and also the conquest of Somalia. But before we get into that, we shall take a short music break. And when we get back, we shall be talking about matters of peace and stability in the Horn of Africa right here on the 54 Correspondent Show. Remember, I am your host, and my name is Spikes. And of course, you can also get a hold of us on our social media platforms. We are on Instagram, Black Hot Fire Network, and also on Twitter, Black Hot Fire, and also on Facebook, Black Hot Fire Network Radio Station. I value and appreciate your company. We'll take a short music break. When we come back, we shall be talking about matters peace and stability in the area of the Horn of Africa.
I get for money, and mama fight. See this girl, don't go fight. I make a pay fight. I'm all over in a body fight. Make a phone on you tonight. I'm all over you, don't need this fight. Judas is carried to them one. Everybody get in Colombo. Everybody get in Jogo. One of my family will go show. Everybody get them do. Hey, I can't wait to make you mine. You I look like I could waste your time. I want to go to the apple pie. Me not really care when they pacify you. All I wanna do is just to satisfy you. Oh, you will ever come and sanctify you. Me I love you. Never leave my love. My love, my love. Me I never love you. Mama did the money fight. I get for money and mama fight. See this girl, don't go fight. I'm a pay fight. I'm all over in a body fight. Make a phone on you tonight. I'm all over you, don't need this side. Judas is carried to them one. Everybody get in Colombo. Everybody get in Jogo. One of my family will show. Everybody got them do.
Yes, that was a short musical break, and the name of the song is Olomo, coming all the way from West Africa. That is Ricardo Banks featuring the one and only Wizkid. And if you're looking for some music to add onto your playlist, even over this particular weekend, this particular holiday, it's very much easy for you to do so. Just head over to YouTube and search for Ricardo Banks, and also a little bit of some whiskey. You can also enjoy a little bit of some of the Afrobeats also on the Black Hotfire network, and it's very, very much easy for you to download the app. Simply head over to Google Play Store, and when you are on Google Play Store, you can be able to download some of, to download that particular app. It's a Black Hotfire network app, and you will be able to enjoy music on the go wherever you are. It doesn't matter whether you are, at your work, or you're having a lunch break, or you're doing this and that. Right now, many people are at home over Thanksgiving, and people trying to reconnect with their families and just have a minute to catch a breath. I think that is what this year's Thanksgiving will be all about. But nonetheless, in Africa, I think in Africa, every day is a Thanksgiving day. Every day is a Thanksgiving day, if you ask me, in Africa. But nonetheless, that's besides the point. I was talking about peace and stability in the Horn of Africa, and I was saying that these two countries, Ethiopia and Somalia, have been worst hit when it comes to the matter of instability because of either internal conflicts or also, different, even the government, some militant forces are also being involved in the fight for the control of different regions. In Somalia, the instability levels have gotten so bad such that we do have different autonomous regions in one country, and therefore we do have the likes of Jubaland, Somaliland, and we cannot talk about one government that controls everything in Somalia. It's difficult, and this has been because of the fight for the control of resources and the control of regions in this particular country. The same is happening in Ethiopia. Before Ethiopia, in history, we did have Djibouti and Eritrea being part of the wider Ethiopia. But because of also this fight for the power and control of different regions, now we do have Ethiopia and Djibouti, which are really just one people. You cannot talk about Djibouti and Eritrea being really separate. They are part and parcel of the same social fabric, which is the Ethiopian people. And of course, we shall go a little bit before we discuss the matter of the instability and the insecurity in Ethiopia. I want to talk about briefly on the history of Ethiopia in matters to do with their history and the fight in the Battle of Adwa.
This video is sponsored by Brilliant. More on that later. Hi, I'm Griffin Johnson, the Armchair Historian. Today's video, how did Italy lose against Ethiopia? During the scramble for Africa, every indigenous nation that was invaded by European powers fell within a matter of decades, all except one, the ancient empire of Ethiopia, also known as Abyssinia. As the world watched, the supposedly primitive Ethiopians were able to repel a modern European army. This defeat was great, and many were puzzled as to how it could have occurred.
Let me get a different version. I think the other one is a bit too light.
Italy cannot understand why the League of Nations has taken no steps in the Chinese-Japanese question, that has not interfered in the Chaco trouble, is today so strong.
This new book, The Battle of Adwa, African Victory in the Age of Empire. Professor Jonas, thank you very much for joining us here today.
Thank you, John. I'm glad to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
I'd like to start off with a very basic question. Could you just set the stage for anyone who might not be familiar with the Battle of Adwa?
Sure. So the Battle of Adwa took place in the Ethiopian highlands on the 1st of March, 1896. And it was a confrontation between an Italian army and an Ethiopian army that resulted in a triumphal victory for Ethiopia and disastrous defeat for Italy. The loss of life on the Italian side, out of about 18,000 men, was close to 6,000. They had almost 3,000 prisoners. The Ethiopian casualties were even higher, probably close to 20,000 out of maybe as many as 100,000. But they won. So at least for those who survived, the casualties were acceptable. Certainly on the eve of the battle, the expectation is that Africa is going to suffer the fate of North America. It's going to be conquered and settled by European Americans. And everything that, I mean, one would say that common sense in the late 19th century says that this is the future of Africa. Africa will undergo its own kind of manifest destiny and be Europeanized in the fullness of time. And what ADWA does is it raises a simple but very important question. It calls common sense about the future of Africa into question, raises doubts about it. And I think that's tremendously important. More broadly, I think the book speaks to how we understand empire working, or in this case, not working. I mean, we know a lot about how it works simply because we know that in most instances empire succeeds, at least in the short run, whether we're talking about Asia or Africa or the Americas. One of the things that draws me to the Ethiopia story, and one of the things that kept me going over the years of research, was how interesting it was to look at a case where empire fails. Because it's by looking at the exceptional case that I think we begin to understand a little bit better what was so contingent about the process. I mean, empire is such a powerful force, and the imbalance in forces is so great that there is this sort of relentless quality to European imperialism in the 19th century. And then we have this singular exception, and I think it's just so interesting to look at, okay, so how did empire fail? You know, what was it about the process that turns out to be contingent after all? And I think the ADWA story speaks to that.
Professor Muchi, this is part of the price that the Ethiopians had to pay for the liberation, for the defeat of the Japanese at Adwa. Now, I hope all of us know what I'm talking about. The Battle of Adwa. No. This battle was fought in 1896 at the end of February 1896. And Italians, coming out of the Berlin Conference, which you remember 1884-85, which then allocated, divided countries, African countries, and into colonized, but not Ethiopia. The Italians thought they want this Ethiopia. And a lot of maneuvers to achieve that objective. And by this time they had occupied what is Eritrea today, or parts of it. And from there wanted to expand and take over Ethiopia as a whole. Now, of course, Ethiopia then is a feudal country. The emperor of Ethiopia at the time of the Battle of Adwa was Emperor Menelik II. Now, before him was Emperor Johannes IV. Now, Johannes IV had warned Menelik when Menelik started talking to the Italians. He had warned him that, you know, these Italians have already occupied this part of Eritrea, and these are not people with whom to form a friendship, because what they're after is taking over Ethiopia. We lose our independence. Emperor Johannes died, Menelik became emperor. And he was responding to that, the attempt by the Italians to take over Ethiopia, to colonize Ethiopia. So the Battle of Adwa, as I say, end of February 1896, is a battle to ensure the continued independence of Ethiopia. That Ethiopia shall not be like all of these other countries which had become colonies of the West.
On the 1st of March 1896, the Italian army met its Ethiopian counterparts at the Battle of Adwa. This battle represented the first victory of the black people of Africa against European colonial powers. Adwa was a stunning victory for Ethiopia, but a disgrace and a disaster for Italy. Adwa aborted the Italians' long-standing ambition to control the Red Sea area. It was on the 1st of March that the Ethiopian army conducted a swift attack. The 1st Battalion of General Abertone's brigade was quickly surrounded and destroyed. Another Ethiopian force also crushed the remaining Italian forces by firing rifles, hurling spears, swirling swords, and hand-to-hand combat. The Italians had suffered one of the greatest single disasters in European colonial history. In one day, nearly as many Italians lost their lives as in all wars of Risorgimento put together. The Battle of Adowa cost the lives of 289 Italian officers, 2,918 European soldiers, and about 2,000 askari. A further 954 European troops were missing, while 470 Italians and 958 askari were wounded. Some 700 Italians and 1,800 askari fell into the hands of the Ethiopian troops. About 70 Italians and 230 askari were tortured to death. The captive Europeans were released in exchange for payment of a 10 million lira reparation by the Italian government. Italy was forced to sign a peace treaty with Ethiopia. The Treaty of Addis Ababa was signed in October 1896. The Treaty of Wikal, which imposed a protectorate over Ethiopia, was abrogated. The Italian colony of Eritrea was reduced to a territory of about 200,000 square kilometers. Menelik's victory over the Italians gave him significant credibility with the European powers, bolstered his mandate at home, and provided the Ethiopian kingdom with a period of peace in which it was able to expand and flourish further. Various treaties concluded with Italy, France, and Great Britain, and the years up to 1908 fixed the borders of Ethiopia with the neighboring territories ruled by the European powers. Adwa is a prelude to decolonization. Because of Adwa, Ethiopia lent its name to many liberation movements in America, the Caribbean, and Africa. With the victory at Adwa, Ethiopia came out as a formal sovereign state.
That is a little bit of the lost glory of Ethiopia. Right now, as you're speaking, things have actually changed, and we cannot talk about Ethiopia. Sorry about that. That was a little bit of some history of how the Ethiopians whooped the Italians us in 1986 at the end of February. And of course, there was a signing of a treaty that did allow, did cease the taking over of the region by the Italians. Bombi Namfa, thank you so much for joining us. We do love and appreciate you for taking the time. And of course, Samuel, thank you so much all the way from the Caribbean. Not many victories have been documented. I believe this was not the only documentary where the black people did fight against the invasion of the Europeans and won. But not so many of them have been well documented as the Battle of Adwa at the end of February in 1896. And of course, you remember in 1844, there was a Berlin Conference, and therefore there was a lot of maneuvering by different European nations to divide Africa into small regions and divide it out like a pie. And on the previous episode, you were talking about the Berlin Conference and how they placed a big map on the wall that was dividing out this particular the continent into small pieces, and Italy happened to be the one maneuvering to try and get a hold of Ethiopia and Eritrea. I was saying earlier, Eritrea and Djibouti were once part of this beautiful country. I apologize for the noises from the outside. I apologize by the noises from the outside. But nonetheless, how is it going for you? Samuel, how is Jamaica? How is Claydon in Jamaica? I would like to know. And also, Bombi Damfa, thank you so much. You're saying such propaganda, first black victory ever. What the hell? You're also wondering, it has been pushed. That is a propaganda. It has been pushed like that. And I was saying that that is a propaganda material that has been used where they can say, you know, that is the first ever black victory. Well, as we know that, you know, there have been so many that have been not documented. And I was saying this was a particular different one because it has bin documented, whereas the others have really not been documented. And now, of course, moving on from that, I want to share with us what is happening with the situation in Ethiopia right now. I understand Bombi Damfa is there, and therefore he might have a better understanding of what is going on in the country. But nonetheless, from where I'm standing, there has been a crisis in the Tigray region. And of course, what is happening is that the government has said that they will not want an interference with this, you know, with this particular kind of fight. And now what is happening is that the Tigray, the Ethiopia Tigray crisis, Abiy Ahmed, who is a prime minister, has rejected international interference. He is saying that this is a matter that his government can be able to put under control and have things really working for him. And of course, the Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed has called the military offensive has called the military offensive a law enforcement operation. His deadline to Tigray fighters to surrender will lapse on Wednesday. And of course, hundreds of people have reportedly been killed and thousands have been forced from their homes. And what have the report also coming up is that, you know, apart from the mass migration of the people, of course, the mass displacement, there has also been some troops that are trying to stop people from leaving their regions. And of course, there is a fear that these will quickly turn into a humanitarian crisis of an epic proportion. And of course, the aid groups fear that the conflict could trigger a humanitarian crisis and destabilize the Horn of Africa region. I was talking about also Somalia. Somalia. And the UN has said it was alarmed that the threat of major hostilities of the Ethiopian army advanced on Tigray's capital, Mekelle, home to about 500,000 people, 500,000 people. In a statement released on Wednesday morning, Mr. Abiy said when it came to help from the outside, the international community should stand by until the government of Ethiopia submits its request for resistance. That is exactly what is happening. He's saying that he will not allow for any foreign interference, and therefore he says that, you know, he can only, the international organization have to stand by until Ethiopia requests for the assistance officially. Let me play this video. Let me see what's more is also continuing with the same.
ولا شفت كده بس جيراني ما بعرف انا عرفتي كان زيه بفتش بس ما قرأت ما بعرف انا لحد هسه
والله انا زي ده ما عرفت انا لكن اللي بيشوفوا عملوا كان في ماتوا شديد ماتوا والله اي ماتوا بعد قالوا يلا اطلعوا مش اي محل كله طلع اي والله
It's a bit crazy when we do have the Nazis are coming from the outside. Well, Alex, I do hope that you are well, and I'm glad that you can join us, Mr. Bombi Damfa. How is it going with you? Let me just add you on to the stream. Let me.
Greetings. Hey, am I clear?
Greetings to you too. I can hear you.
How are you doing, my brother? You know, long time listener, first time caller.
Greetings to you too. Greetings.
Yeah. I know I'm a long time watcher, long time listener, but
it's a good thing. I've been trying to. Yeah.
Yeah, man. I love the work you guys are doing.
Can you hear me clear? Can you hear me clear?
I can hear you, brother. I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Okay, go on. I hear you clear. Go on.
No, I'm just saying. I love the work you guys are doing. Keith. Before I follow Keith because he just started actually now. He used to have a bigger platform than this a few years back, and then he just went quiet. And then he came back now a few months ago. Then I started checking him out, on his radio broadcasting. But I love because he's got that vibe, from where he is, he's on that Kemetic Hebrew ethics. You know what I'm saying? So I love him for that. So we're putting the record straight in terms of a lot of things because I love the way you guys debate about things. Even when we look at this here, such propaganda, first black history over the whites. Like you said, no, that was never the first victory over the whites.
Yeah.
This goes to same context as to say Christopher Columbus discovered America. This is in the same bracket.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
So when you are slightly educated, slightly elevated in your own history as a black person, because these are the times where there is no longer excuses, my brother. Right? We live in the information and technology age. If you are spending your time watching these so-called celebrities doing nonsense on social media when you should be really educating yourself and trying to elevate yourself and your mind, then I don't know, my brother. I don't know. Because we should have at least 100, 200, maybe 500 people watching right now. But I promise you, when you go to the next channel where they're talking about nonsense, so-and-so gossip and this nonsense, just nonsense. That's where our African brothers and sisters be spending their time. You see? Right. So it's just an introduction to myself, my brother. I'm with you.
Where are you?
I hope I can participate in this discussion because what's going on in Ethiopia, definitely, this is what you call neo-colonialism, right? When you want to understand the strategic reasons why you've got Russia, why you've got America, why you've got Britain, with bases in or around that area, right? Destabilizing that place. Because when you're speaking of Africa, you're looking at Ethiopia, right? This can never be separated with the project that's going on in Aswan, right? This goes hand in hand with what's going on in Aswan, right? So we cannot negate what is going down, my brother, because I believe that the destabilization of that region, while they're also trying to destabilize the South, because what's going on in the South, my brother, is the same thing, right? Because you find that Zimbabwe right now, we've got the Zidera sanctions, right? Destabilizing that region. So how can you have America, a superpower, put Zidera sanctions on such a small economy like Zimbabwe? You see what I'm saying? Which used to be one of the wealthiest in that region, with a rich history, right? And then you go up north as well to that region. It's an empire type of scenario because when you're dealing with Zimbabwe, you're dealing with the former Roji Empire. When you're dealing with that region, they're destabilizing also. These are empires. So you find these are all former empires that they don't want that resurgence, that unity, because what unifies Africans is empire. Believe it or not, it's kingdoms. Their democracy will never work. And they know this for a fact, and that's why they keep pumping and pumping their democracy. It won't work, my brother. Right? So we need African solutions for African problems. And we can only find these solutions when we go back into our history, into our culture, into the way we did things. I don't know, my brother.
That is a very great point. And I also want to bring Bobby Dampa into the conversation. How are you doing, my brother? Bobby Dampa from Ethiopia. How are you doing?
Yo, Spikes, what going?
I'm going to you too. How are things going in Ethiopia?
Yeah, man. Everything is good around here, you know. We're taking it easy by the day.
I believe there has been sort of a media blackout regarding what is happening in Tigray. Is there any information coming? Are people sharing information on what is happening in the region, or is there a media blackout in that region?
There are like a lot of rumors spreading around the city currently. You know, some people are saying that more than 700 people tried to attack Addis Ababa yesterday. So, you know, we're just hearing all these rumors coming from around. So, yeah, I'm still not sure.
There have also been some rumors saying that, you know, that the central government has actually won in terms of taking back the region, taking back control of the region. This is also not easy to verify whether they have actually taken back a whole of the region or whether the TPLF will still continue with the fight. We are not sure whether there is any reports of surrendering or any reports of the TPLF surrendering and saying, okay, now we give up on the fight. But the government has been trying to push that kind of a scenario, saying that they have won, they have taken over the control of the region, and it's crazy. I don't know how about you know, in the city you were saying that it's very, very hard also to get the full information, but there are rumors. Have you heard about the situation with the people being displaced from this region and you know, moving to other neighboring countries such as Sudan? Have you heard about this, the plight of the people and the numbers that are moving from this region going to Sudan? What are the people saying? Displacement.
The kind of things that the people tell me are, you know, absolutely crazy. You know, last time, you know, they told me that this was in Mekele. Mekele is the capital of the Tigray region. They say that they took they took so many people to a stadium, and then they locked them there, throwing bombs at them inside the stadium. So now you have people running around in a football field while bombs are being thrown at them. This just happened last week. This was happening last week. So the situation in
even right now.
Go on.
Sorry,
go on.
They're talking about the operation going on until Wednesday. They were talking about the operation going on until Wednesday. I'm saying they were talking about the operation going on until Wednesday. Do you think that the Prime Minister has any support from the other regions? Do you think the Prime Minister has support from the other regions to go on and carry out this operation? Is there any kind of a support for the Prime Minister right now?
Yes.
Are you hearing any support?
The Prime Minister has a lot of support from, you know, other regions around here. Everyone is behind him, you know, during these difficult times. You know, and they need to be.
But I think it's crazy also because this is an assault on its own people. I think perhaps there should have been a better way to address this particular matter, because this is the government having, you know, launching an operation against its own people. And of course, also the people also have been blamed. The TPLF also has been blamed for attacking government forces. And therefore, has there been, I have heard about, for example, the African Union. I think the African Union had called for some points, you know, for people to have sort of go back to the drawing board and have a dialogue in how things can be sorted out between
the African Union wanted to mediate this crisis. The Ethiopian government told them to, you know, stay back because, honestly speaking, they are one hell of a useless organization. Up to now, they have not said anything about this crisis. So for them, they're just, you know, hey.
It's actually crazy. For Timeza, let me get a question to Timeza Freeborn. Where are you tuning from? I would just like to know where you're tuning from. Kindly let me know. Where are you tuning from?
Where am I listening from?
Yeah, no, yeah. Where are you from? Where are you based at?
No, I'm from Zimbabwe, my friend.
Oh, okay. That's a good look right there. I wanted to ask you: do you think the African Union has failed its people, or do you think the African Union and other regional bodies have done anything for the intervention of the situation in Ethiopia? Do you think the African Union is doing enough in that regard?
No, the African Union can only come in with a mandate, right?
Yeah.
We don't want dictatorship. That's the whole point. That's the problem in Africa. When we say we want diplomacy, and when the channels of diplomacy are being explored, then we cry foul. I agree that there should have been talks rather than conflict. You know, like the United Nations is calling for, let's go back to the drawing table. Now, what can the United Nations do besides call out for that? Or, I mean, sorry, the AU, the African Union. The African Union. Because so much as in them going in by force is dictatorship. They can only say what they say. Now it's up to the government of Ethiopia or the people of Ethiopia to petition the AU if they think perhaps the government is not taking the responsibility, the mentor. But I think that is secondary. When the government, we see perhaps that the crisis, well, because right now this is the first segment of the crisis that we are assuming people are spilling over into Sudan. And they're saying that as many as perhaps 300, is it 300 or 3,000 people a day are now fleeing, coming into Sudan, causing a humanitarian crisis in Sudan. So if Sudan calls in for the United Nations, African Union to step in, I think that would be enough of a mandate for them to bring these two parties to a talking table. You see, otherwise they cannot step in. They are held tight.
But there is also a big.
Wait.
Sorry, go on, Dampa. Go on.
Did my brother just mention Sudan?
Yeah.
No. The Sudanese government is supporting the TPLF fighters. They are in full support of the TPLF, not the government. So they are not looking to, how can I say it, subside the crisis. They are looking to fuel it more.
Escalate, And I also have a problem because what I understand is that, for example, we all know that the headquarters of the African Union have been in Ethiopia itself, and I think also the control of the African Union to a very, very large extent is also under the control of the Ethiopians themselves, because the headquarters are in Ethiopia. For so many years, most of the things that have to do with the policies and everything else around the African Union have been conducted from Ethiopia. And therefore, right now, as we speak, I think the African Union is also not able to do as much. I think it's sort of, I cannot say its hands are tied, because they can also, at some point, it can be able to do something. But having been run from Ethiopia, having been run from, the capital city, from Addis Ababa, and everything else happening from that particular point, the African Union right now might sort of not be very much independent when it comes to these matters affecting Ethiopia. It's happening. It's like it's happening. It's in its own house, and therefore we do have a problem with that. But for the people, I have had also the government being involved, some of the troops being involved in stopping people from crossing over from Ethiopia into Sudan. And I think at some point you might hear the numbers also escalating unless something is done. I think Abiy Ahmed, it was very, very much ironical to hear Abiy Ahmed getting the reward, the Nobel Peace Prize. You remember that was last year. Was it last year or earlier this year? I think that was last year. I think that was last year when he got the Nobel Peace Prize. But what is happening in Ethiopia is nothing close to peace. For you, Bombi Dampa, what do you think would be, one of some of the solutions perhaps that you might suggest, maybe, going forward? What perhaps would you say maybe would draw us closer to a solution?
like one of the first things is that people need to, you know, get away from this tribal, you know, nonsense. Because here, this tribal nonsense is rife here. You know, people, they just see themselves as, you know, Tigrays, Amharas, or Romos. You know, like this person can't come to my region. You can't bury this person in my region, this and that. So all of this has to end in order for them to, you know, progress more further. Yeah, I think so. Like the first thing first.
Because I understand there are 81 different ethnic groups in Ethiopia, 81 of them, and I believe some of them might have.
It's probably more than that. It's probably more than that.
Yeah, because some of them might have felt underrepresented, and because, for example, I believe some of the communities right now are at war with each other because they feel the government does not represent them. The government has been on the sideline looking after the interests of the main, you know, the political, the group of the leader. For example, I'm not sure Abiy Ahmed which community he comes from. I would just like to check up and see what community he comes from, because I understand the Oromos and also the Tigris and the Amharas. Everyone feels that they are not represented, and perhaps they feel that they should be getting a bigger piece of the national cake. And I was saying that I believe one of the best solutions is really to come together and also subside this problem with the tribalism. For our brother in Zimbabwe, how are things in terms of tribalism? Is there a big crisis also, you know, when it comes to tribes coexisting in Zimbabwe? Have you seen the same in Zimbabwe, or have people decided have they learned from the past? Our brother from Niger.
We take a different approach to tribalism in the South, right? We celebrate our difference because it's what also unites us. If you see what I'm saying, right? Let me break it down for you in a manner that you can understand how we use tribalism in the South to identify ourselves, yet also unite each other. So we have, like myself, I'm Muroji. We are the empire builders in the South. If you want our history, you just look up the Roji Empire. You can get a synopsis of our history, right? So my totem is Moyo, the heart. You see what I'm saying? Moyo. But the thing, because I'm from the Moyo clan, I'm not allowed to marry one from the Moyo clan. You see what I'm saying? They're considered as my sisters. You see what I'm saying? Right. So if I'm to marry, I have to marry outside of my clan. So that is why, for us, tribalism works, because I cannot marry out of my own tribe. It's like marrying my own sister. You see what I mean? So our tribes are intermingled. We marry outside of our tribes. So our tribes are intermingled. So you find that if I am Moyo, I cannot marry a Moyo woman. I have to marry a woman from the lion tribe, or a woman from the monkey tribe, you know, or a woman from the hippo tribe. Any tribe besides my totem, because I've got a totem, a last name, and a first name. So that is why we are tribalistic in that manner. As to say, we've got the Xhosa, the Ndebele, the Zulu, and we all intermarry and make up this beautiful thing called Ubuntu, Abantu, or Bantu. Down here in the South African, down here in the Southern African region, we have what is called Ubuntu. That is what we practice. Ubuntu. Yes. That's our way of life. That is our justice. Even our judges, when they preside over law, the first thing they have to recognize is Ubuntu. Is there Ubuntu in your judgment? Is there humanity in your judgment? That's what we look for. So there are no tribal wars down here. Not really.
And it's a beautiful thing that you know, the people. That's a good thing, because I think the other countries should learn from you as well. I believe the other countries should also learn from you, and you know, use the diversity to bring people together instead of fighting against each other. Because you cannot have, for example, in Kenya we do have 47 communities. In Kenya we do have 47 different tribes. And you cannot have the president, you know, we cannot have 47 presidents, each representing every tribe. We cannot have that happen. We have to work towards unity as the African people, because that is the only way we have been divided for a very, very long time, and we have been conquered because of this unity. For Bombi Damfa, I believe you have had the experience both in Ethiopia and also the experience also in the Gambia. How are things in the Gambia when it comes to tribalism, brother Bombi Damfa, when it comes to, you know, the division among us along our tribal lines in the Gambia?
It's not as bad as here. You know, I could say that, but it's still there, though. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's still there. Like for example, like in certain job positions, they will take other different clans, like Mandingos or Fullers. So like that happens there also, like in Gambia too. Like also during political campaigns, political parties would choose which clans are the biggest so that they can get more votes. And yeah, but it's not as bad as here.
That is a kind of a thing that also happens right here in Kenya, because when it comes to political the campaign season, many people use advantage of the tribalism to sort of push that to get more votes or to confuse more people. Cassius Williams, thank you so much for joining us. Let me get the comment. You were saying that Tigray is fighting and killing Ethiopian over the dam. The Tigray came in Ethiopia and killed a lot of innocent Ethiopian, including Babizim. And I also say the Ethiopian Prime Minister acted when he saw dead bodies on the streets when Tigray was on a mass killing spree. And I also saying the fighting was about the Ethiopian dam in Egypt and Tigray and how to pay to use the dam. Trump sided with Egypt. Yes, I remember Trump making some reckless comments. Trump was actually saying that the Egyptians will come up and blow the dam, and therefore it does not make any sense for them to continue with the construction of the dam. But nonetheless, I also believe Timedza also says something to the same effect. And I want to share with us what is happening with the construction of the dam, because these are. Sorry, go on. Carry on.
Like I was saying, that got a lot of people mad.
Yeah, I hear
when
you.
Trump
go on.
Said that. That got a lot of people mad when Trump said it.
I can hear you, brother. I can hear you. Carry on. Go on.
Yes, I was saying that when Trump made those comments about the dam, it got a lot of Ethiopian people, angry,
But I think he was also trying to give us some validation. I think. Sorry. Yeah. There's a bit of a delay on my end. Sorry, carry on, brother.
Yeah, you're right. There's a lag. I was saying that the Ethiopians, they really got mad because of what Trump said. Yeah, like on social media and those other platforms, they were really, sharing their minds.
And I believe everyone went crazy. But nonetheless, I think when you have this particular construction of a dam and there is a quarrel, and we do have all this internal fighting, I think it will also create a platform, or it also creates a leeway for other people from the outside to come and sabotage this particular dam project. Because if you're already weak from internal conflicts, then it means that even your national force is also being weakened by these internal conflicts, and therefore the attention that would have gone in terms of protecting the country now is divided. Do we go and continue fighting with the Tigray, the TPLF, or do we now start defending our country, from these other different external forces? And also, there is a point that Timedza made, which is also very, very strong. He was talking about the army bases that have been put up in this region. I believe in Eritrea, we do have, is it Eritrea or Djibouti? I will be getting that correct information. There is some army forces. Let me share a video briefly of these army bases that have been put up in Ethiopia by all these other foreign powers. And now we can ask ourselves a question: what is happening? Is it just a coincidence that we do have all these bases being set up in this region, or there is a bigger plan to the same? Let me share this real quick, and then we shall get back to the conversation about some of the solutions on what can be done to bringing these conflicts to an end. Let me share these real quick. I believe this is a video of what is happening with the bases. And I believe also they have seen this as a vantage point where they can be able to, in case there is any kind of a war, most of the bases have been put up in this. Let me get a video real quick and then I'll share these with us. I'm trying to look for the video, but I believe I might find it as we move along. But I believe there might be also some solutions that we can also prescribe to African solutions, really not foreign interventions, African solutions that we can prescribe to our African problems. Brother Timeza, what would you rather say that would draw us closer to a solution in this matter of the fighting in Ethiopia, the conflict in Ethiopia?
We need to.
Can you hear me, Timeza?
I don't. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Hello?
Yeah, I hear you. I hear you well. I hear you good.
Okay. I mean,
yes, I do.
There's a bit of a delay on your side, but I can hear you fine, I suppose. Right. Look, we need to marry.
I can hear both of you properly. Yeah.
We need to marry the two. I'm married to a European who's also an African, because she was born in Africa. She's a white woman, right? She was around Uganda, Tanzania, Kenya. Her dad was a diplomat, so she traveled around Africa. She's white, right? I'm African, Zimbabwean, colonized by the British, right? But as far as we stand, Zimbabwe is the only free country in Africa right now, economically and politically, right? Because we took back our land from the white farmers and we suffered a lot from it. That's why there's Western sanctions on us, because we're a threat. Zimbabwe is the #1 threat on the continent to the European foreign policy, because our model to be followed, every other African country will have to go down the road we went, whether they like it or not. They're going to have to go down that road. South Africa is facing that injunction right now with the land reformation without appropriation. Julius Malema is one of the biggest proponents of that. Right. It's always about land and about economic freedom and empowerment. Right. People, when we go back, people govern themselves. That is the key rule. People need to govern themselves. The federation that they had going in Ethiopia worked. What the government, I believe, today is trying to do is remove the power from those individual tribes, from those individual locations, because power was decentralized. You see what I'm saying? But I feel the government right now is trying to centralize power. Power is better when it is decentralized and people have autonomy and have a say over what they like. So the council is a powerful thing. What they need to do, the government, is to respect the rights of the minority. They should not go in heavy-handed. They should treat these people like citizens, not as terrorists. You see what I'm saying? Because it's a thin line between a revolutionary, a rebel, an anarchist, and then just to label someone a terrorist because you as the government want to go in and just be dictators. Because this is what we find in Africa, unfortunately. There are very few governments that do not abuse power and do not abuse their people. Let's just go back to Nigeria a few months ago. We were crying about this, what are they called, this police that were brutalizing the people.
The SARS movement.
Yes, stop SARS. More people died under the watch of that government and SARS than what is purported to be perhaps about to go on in Ethiopia now, which I believe 90% is propaganda until it is verified. Because I know the Western media, they don't show anything positive about any situation in Africa. They highlight all the negative things that they can find, and then they put that in a collage. The point where sometimes you think, my God, it's on fire. You see what I'm saying? If I'm not in Zimbabwe, knowing what is going on, I would think this country disappeared off the face of the earth because of the negative propaganda that you only hear being spewed by CNN, all these big media networks, they are not objective in their reporting of the news. They have an agenda. They've always had an agenda. You see what I'm saying? So our solutions lie in our ways of doing things. You see what I'm saying?
And we have
right.
And we have a beautiful sister from Zimbabwe. I don't know, Timedza, if you have seen the beautiful.
Sorry, my brother.
Yeah. I agree with you. I agree with you. All saying we.
No, please go on. Go on.
Spikes.
We have a beautiful sister from Zimbabwe. She is a correspondent. Her name is Rumizai Muzopa from Zimbabwe on the Blackwood Spa Network. We are trying also to get a proper image of what is going down in Zimbabwe. We are almost concluding this particular episode. I think I'm having a bit of a problem with the lag. We are almost concluding, but I want us to continue with the conversation. Brother Chimedza, it's very, very much important. It's a delight. It's a delight. It's a delight to have you on the show, as well as our Bombi Damfa. We hope to continue with the conversation. But for now, I think we're having a bit of a lag and we shall wind up. But please make sure that you take in on us every other time. And we get to have a conversation about how we can build Africa. All the way in Senegal, all the way in Gambia, all the way in Zimbabwe, all the way in Uganda, and whatever place that you might be at. We want to have a conversation about building Africa and also presenting solutions for African people, because we need African solutions to these African problems.
Okay, my brother, let me hit you up.
There's a bit of a lag. We have a bit of a problem with the connectivity, but nonetheless, I hope that you can still hear me. Bombi Damfa, what will be your closing remarks? Kindly, brother, give me some closing remarks.
All right.
I would say, yeah, man. All this fighting needs to stop, you know.
Yeah, I hear you.
Because Ethiopia has been really, really good, you know, during this past 10 years. They have been really, progressing really fast. And, all these crises, they're just setting it back, you know. They're taking it backwards further and further. So, my brother from Zimbabwe, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, my brother.
All right, then. What's your name again? Like, I didn't get it.
Chimeza Freeborn.
Chimeza.
Yeah. And you?
Brother Mbombe. Mbombe Damfa.
Oh, Bobby. Bobby Damfa. All right.
Yeah, all right.
No, I mean, next time we can discuss real opportunities on the continent, right? Because where I'm from in Zimbabwe, we've got opportunities like no other people right now in Africa. And they don't want you to know this. That's why they are hitting us hard in Zimbabwe, because we've got it like no other Africans have got it right now. We own the land. We've got land for sale. We've got land for hire, purchase. We've got land for agriculture. We've got land for mining. We've got land for building houses, projects, whatever you want. You put it in your name. We've got land right now, my brothers and sisters. We've got land for mining. I own land in Zimbabwe. I've got land that was given because it's tradition to pass on land. It's cultural to pass on land. It's called rural land. And then there's land we purchased as a family. This is land where we do mining. So I have got over 5,000 hectares of untapped resources. And I'm talking platinum, gold, diamonds, lithium. Right. The company was already formed. Everything has been done in terms of surveying the land, So we know the quantities that are already in the land in terms of quantity of these minerals. Zimbabwe, we have over 62 minerals. I'm only talking about perhaps the key minerals you might be interested in. Gold, diamond, right? Why Zimbabwe? Because we own the land. It's in our hands, the black people, you see. So you can actually do business with me. There are laws in place that say Zimbabweans have to own 51% of any enterprise that they venture in with foreigners. So it protects us as Zimbabweans that we never lose out of our inheritance. But trust me, if you've got the money and the time to invest, come. Let's make Zimbabwe great. Let's make Africa great. Let that be your bread basket again, because Zimbabwe was the bread basket of Africa at one point in time. We, in the 80s, in the 70s, used to be able to feed at least half of Africa. No problem. When we were in our peak, we were an agricultural economy. So we are going back to that status again. Painful as it is. Yes, we've got the highest inflation in the world, terrible corruption, but we are fighting corruption to the point where when you're dealing with individuals like me, we are not corrupt. We can assist each other. It's there for the taking. So maybe next time we go on live, I'll show you the necessary documents that I have so that you know this man is not talking nonsense. He's talking the real stuff. Show you all the paperwork. Do the screenshots. Thank you, guys.
Sorry, family, we had a bit of a problem with our connectivity. I'm not sure whether you can still hear me. And George Guy, you're saying, can anyone tell me if the riots are caused by European or Western countries' interference? Yes, I believe there is some element of external interference, because I do not understand why this particular conflict only is arising at this particular time in history. You might also question yourself about the timing of this particular conflict. From what I do understand is that there is expected to be an election. There was an expected election this particular year, but nonetheless it was postponed till next year, and that was through parliamentary registration in parliament, which allowed for the postponement of the elections till next year. What I'm yet to understand is really the kind of support that Abiy Ahmed is receiving from the people on the ground, whether he has the full support of the people. And Bombi Dampa was telling us that really there might be that particular kind of a support. Nonetheless, I don't know if you're still with us, Bombi Dampa, or Mr. Our brother from Zimbabwe. I am not certain whether you're still with us, but if you're still with us and you'd like to make your final comment, I would still like for you to be able to do so. But if not, it's still fine. We shall still continue with this particular conversation some other time regarding what is happening in Ethiopia and regarding also other matters, Africa, on the 54 Correspondent Show. If you're still with us, you can still join us and I'll make your final comments. And if not, we shall still continue with this debate on another subsequent episode of the 54 Correspondent Show. George Guy, thank you so much for joining us all the way from Canada. We also do have Cassius Williams in the States. And of course, how is your weekend going, Cassius Williams? I do not know if you are part and parcel of the people celebrating the Thanksgiving and are just chilling out with the family, or you just let it pass and just continue your normal routine. Please do let me know what you are up to on the 26th of November, the year 2020, which is, I believe, a holiday in the States, the Thanksgiving holiday. In Africa, I was joking earlier on and saying in Africa, every day is a Thanksgiving day. People have been kept in so much poverty that people are just trying to stay off, on the to survive, which is a thing that many people have been, that is a perpetual cycle right here in Africa. But nonetheless, I do not say that Africa is poor. I like to reiterate the fact that Africa is not poor. Africa is the Africans themselves have been kept in poverty. The Africans are poor, in most of the cases, but Africa itself as a continent is not poor. We do have vast mineral resources, come from South Africa, go to the north of Africa, go to East Africa. Everywhere in Africa, you do find most African nations being endowed with a lot of natural resources. Nonetheless, I want to thank everyone that was with us on this particular episode. I think we lost the brother Bombi Dampa, and I think we also lost the brother from Zimbabwe. But nonetheless, your insight is very, very much welcome. And of course, I do like to appreciate you once again. Thank you so much. In Swahili, we do normally say asante sana. That is what we do normally say in Kiswahili. If you're still with us, and of course, if you're still tuning in and you would like to come in and make your final remarks, it will be good. I think my internet got cut off, and that is a problem I have. I didn't give opportunity to make some remarks on. If you would like to still join us and make the final closing remarks, you are still much welcome to do so. If not, it's still fine. We hope to continue with the conversation on our subsequent episodes. I'll just give us a minute. I'll play some music. If you still want to come back on, you can join us with that particular link. And we say it, I believe the solution is really to sort of, handle this tribalism, because there are negative aspects of ethnicity and even positive aspects in diversity. But the problem is there have been some leaders and others, I cannot really even call them leaders, that have used this particular ethnicity in a negative way to pit one community against another community. And even people have accepted themselves to be used, which is crazy, because it should not be used as a tool by these leaders and these politicians, which I believe in most cases are using the people in, pitting them against each other, whether be it the Oromo, the Tigrinya, the Amhara, and all these different communities in Ethiopia, that sometimes you do find these conflicts run deeper than just what is happening on the surface. But nonetheless, the government has been conducting an operation in Ethiopia, and the operation really has been sort of taking over the region of the Tigray region in Ethiopia, and this has left a lot of casualties. And I believe the matter should be handled differently. And there has also been condemnation by different organizations in Africa and different leaders in Africa around the continent talking about a better approach, when the government is not, having casualties of its own people. Nonetheless, I'll play one jam in case you're still with us, Abompe, and you would like to make a closing remark. It's okay. If not, we can still have these conversations some other time, even as we wind up on the 54 Corresponding Show.
You never reach fight. Make a phone on you tonight. I'm all over you, don't make peace like Judas Iscariot, they don't want to. We're gonna get him Columbu. We're gonna get him Jugo. One of my phone, we're gonna show. We're gonna get him no. Ain't no Columbu. Ain't no Columbu. Ain't no. I can't wait to make you mine. You I look like I could waste your time. I want to do the apple.
Yes, that is some music, like I said, all the way from West Africa by Ricardo, by Ricardo Banks, as well as Whiskey. But as we wind up, I just wanted to share the fact that Ethiopia is expected to go into a polls next year. The elections were supposed to be conducted this year, but because of the COVID-19, there was a legislation that allowed Parliament to move the elections to next year. And of course, the Tigray region, or the Tigray region, wanted to still continue and carry on its regional elections. And there was a crash between the government because the central government did not want the conducting of a regional government before next year. And there has been some series of events that have culminated even into now the actual conflict. Earlier on, the government of Tigray, the Tigray region, wanted to continue with the elections because they're supposed to be held this year, and they believe the terms for the former leaders have ended. They wanted to put in place new leaders. But the central government objected. They say you cannot have these elections. And then the regional government says, okay, we still shall continue these elections. And there have been a bit of a push and pull, a bit of a tussle, not even a bit, a whole heck of a tussle between the regional and the central government in Ethiopia. And now this has resulted to even some of the central government or army officers being attacked by some people who have been said to represent the TPLF or the regional government in Tigray. And all these factors put together have led to this. But I also believe under the surface, there is much more happening. And we shall be doing a little bit more in-depth research to bring you a collective, full, credible information regarding what is happening in Ethiopia. But I do hope that there shall be a resolution for peace in this particular country. And I hope that Abiy Ahmed will also do the right thing in the interest of the people, not just favoring different groups, but also looking at the interest of the Ethiopian at large, any Ethiopian at large. And that would be my call even to this Prime Minister in Ethiopia. Nonetheless, much peace and love. Till next time, I want to wish you a happy and productive day. Remember to join us on other subsequent episodes of the Africa Today Show today. And I also join the African Test Show and also the Breaking the Matrix later on the Black Hot Fire Network. Till then, much peace and love. I want to say, kwaheri.
Me not really care when they classify you. All I wanna do is just to satisfy you. Oh, you only want a man to sanctify you. Me I love you. Never only my love. Man, I'm the calling my love. Me I never I get for money and you mama fight. See this daily don't go fight. I'm make a big fight. I'm alone when you never reach fight. Make a phone on you tonight. I'm alone when you don't need peace and Judas Iscariot, they don't want to. We're gonna get him Columbu. We're gonna get him Jugo. I get for money and you mama fight. See this daily don't go fight. I make a big fight. I'm alone when you never reach fight. Make a phone on you tonight. I'm alone when you don't need peace and Judas Iscariot with them walk. Everybody get them Colombo. Everybody get them Jogodo. Follow my power, me we all show. Everybody got them no. Ain't no way to Colombo. Ain't no way to Colombo. Ain't no way to go.